Now, this last video is probably going to be the most important one, and this is actually rebuilding post bankruptcy. I feel like one of the biggest stigmas in the bankruptcy conversation is, okay, I'm going to file for bankruptcy, but I don't want to mess up my credit for the next 7 to 10 years. Well, what most people do is that they confuse the fact, one, they confuse that the reporting could be on your credit report for 7 to 10 years based on the type of bankruptcy that you do, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have bad credit for the next 7 to 10 years. You always got to keep in mind this: the FICO algorithm is designed to show lenders using a 3-digit numerical score from 300 to 850 how likely you are to default on a debt in the next 2 years. And the most important data to them to determine how likely you are to default your payment in the next 2 years is what? It's the information from the previous 2 years. So the biggest mistakes that most people make is they'll file for bankruptcy, right? They'll file for bankruptcy and then they'll ignore their credit for 7, 8, 9 years, waiting for it to come off and then building on top of it. When in reality, 6 months after your bankruptcy goes through, you should start attacking that and you should start building positive payment history on top of that. Whether it be secured credit cards, secured loans, anything to get your foot in the door to start establishing new payment history, right? So from my personal experience, and most people don't know this, is you can actually buy a home 2 years after bankruptcy. And most people, they actually have a 700 credit score 3 years after bankruptcy, right? Now, you may be thinking, but how come they have 700 credit scores 3 years post bankruptcy? And I'll even go as far and tell you this: some consumers, they may even see their credit score increase after bankruptcy. And why is that? Because one of the factors that lenders look at to determine if you're a higher risk or not to let you borrow money is how much money you already owe. And if you're somebody who owed $200,000 and then all those $200,000 got discharged, and now you're somebody who has no debt, you're seen as somebody who is less risky to the lender. And this is only in some cases, but I'm telling you, in most cases, people can buy a home in 2 years, and people have a 700 plus credit score in 3 years. Now, what determines how fast you recover from bankruptcy? Well, it's really about how you rebuild post bankruptcy, right? Now, you always got to keep this in mind: the lenders that you included in your bankruptcy, they're not gonna try to talk to you after that. So let's say in your bankruptcy, you included Chase, Bank of America, Capital One, American Express, Discover. There's a big chance that those lenders won't want to talk to you. Now, under this video, I'm gonna drop probably the biggest resource that I can on rebuilding post bankruptcy. But usually, a good rule of thumb is that they're not going to talk. Those banks that you included in the bankruptcy, they're not going to talk to you, right? So you really have to start building relationships with different lenders that work with people who have had bankruptcies in the past. Now you might be thinking, Edgar, wouldn't it just be easier to remove the bankruptcy off the credit report and then go ahead and rebuild post that? Well, here's the thing. Even like I said in the previous 2 videos, even if you remove the bankruptcy from the credit report, right, there's still a question on the applications that usually ask you, have you ever filed for bankruptcy? And technically, you have to answer yes or no, or otherwise you're committing banking fraud. So my recommendation is this: if you do decide to go through the bankruptcy process, make sure that you understand that a big part of recovering from the bankruptcy process is not just time, but it's what you do in that time after the bankruptcy, right? So a lot of people, what they do is they don't do anything for the next 7 to 10 years, and that's really a huge mistake because you could be using that time to really be establishing new payment history. Now, if you guys have any questions or you guys want me to make videos on any other subjects, just leave a comment below or comment in the community. Take care, guys. Peace.